What up, everybody? Scuffy here, and we have got a surprise little patch going on in the game today. Did not quite expect it. It popped up late at night Friday night for me with a substantial amount of changes to some of the neutral cards. So I'm going to be taking a look at these each, giving you kind of first impressions, and then I'm going to be telling you where you can take a look and listen for more player discussion and analysis and thoughts, first impressions, second impressions, after a day after time has set in on these changes. But first off, let's take a look at the Chaos card pool, because that's where a lot of these end up being at. I'm not talking Ingathel or Chaos Spawn, though. We're talking about the marks of Chaos. Now, obviously, you can't tell any different. Taint of Chaos still works the same, but if you remember correctly, when you're playing the game, they give you 4 different marks. You get the mark of Khorne, Slaanesh, Tzeentch, or Nurgle. Those have all changed. Those have all changed in a very interesting way. Pros and cons, depending on where you stand with them. So first off, Mark of Khorne no longer gives +3/+0. It now just gives +2/+0. It actually goes down a little bit in attack. Mark of Nurgle, which used to just give poison, now gives poison as well as +0/+2, so 2 additional health. Mark of Slaanesh used to be sneak attack, and now instead the attacker gets, or the troop gets +1/0 as well as terror. So it could still have sneak attack, but not always. However, it does gain additional attack, so that's interesting. And then Mark of Tzeentch, which used to give stealth and unstoppable, now gives unstoppable and +1/+1. So stats across the board all increase with these Taints of Chaos, which is very interesting. Now, obviously, Slaanesh and Khorne used to be the go-tos, the favored ones that you wanted. Occasionally, you would be okay with a Mark of Tzeentch if it was on a certain troop that had like a relentless ability or a resolution ability, or even a troop that you were looking to convert to a greater demon by applying more of these Marks of Chaos. You're going to lose the stealth portion of that. However, for a warlord like Ingathel, who, when they give a Mark of Chaos, also gives +0/+1, that's a really big boost. It's negative in the fact that, yes, it's harder for her to turn her troops into greater demons, but if she gives a Mark of Nurgle, which before used to be the worst one to give, now she's giving 3 health as well as poisonous to a troop, that right out the gate, first turn, a Bisha could become a 3/4. With a lucky roll. And I say lucky, that's a good roll now, whereas before, that was probably the worst roll that you could get. So that's very interesting, and there are still plenty of ways to give stealth to troops, not to mention playing troops that actually have stealth on them, and there are quite a few, or duplicitous, which is kind of a pseudo-stealth now, so there are still plenty of ways to take advantage of that and to keep that troop stealth. So far, very interesting. Now, another change to the Canis Vertex, which is a Chaos Warlord. Now, this Warlord does get a little bit of a change, primarily, not necessarily with the abilities here, but the weapons changes. First off, this used to start with 1 less card. Now, this wording is still in this game, but this needs to be taken out because it no longer starts with 1 less card. It starts with the same cards as normal, so it gains an additional card. That's fine. It's weapons, it has 2 arms and 2 shoulder cannons. Its arms now have the ability, before it used to pay 3 plasma to deal 2 damage, now it can deal 2 to 4 damage. So it increased the damage, it increased the card draw. It used to have meltdown on each Titan part, dealing anywhere between 5 to 8 to adjacent units, whether that was a Titan part, the warlord, or a troop that was next to that. That has been changed and now deals 3 to 5 damage to the warlord as well as all Titan weapons. And that is actually a significant counterbalance, is probably the best term. I think the thought there might be that in giving Canis Vertex the additional card as well as increasing the damage shots from the fists, that maybe it needed a little bit of toning down. But theoretically, if you take out 1 weapon and that deals 3 to 5 damage to 4 other body parts, it's actually dealing more damage than it would if it was just dealing 5 to 8 to the 2 adjacent units. So that's actually a significant buff, significant nerf to how that works. You can spread your damage around, and if there are several low health Titan parts, they could cause a chain reaction and take Canis Vertex down. So that's definitely not going to help Canis Vertex much at all. The additional card is great, and maybe if you build a heavy front line, but Canis is so slow in the current shape it's in, as well as vulnerable to so many flanking attack troops, that I just don't see that being beneficial. It seems like it's counterproductive. I think if they would have changed it where it was just, they just lowered the meltdown damage to 3 to 5 to adjacent as opposed to all body parts, I think it probably would have been a little bit better. But as it is, that's pretty bad. Now, if you don't like Canis Vertex, then maybe that's good news for you. Maybe you're tired and you don't care, and that's fine. Now the word bearers, which when I say the word bearers, I mean mainly their Primarch Lorgar, who has arguably long been the weakest Primarch. He was in the shop last weekend or the weekend before. A lot of people picked him up, but he's not doing much. He still isn't doing much. But they changed. They changed his reckon, his whispers of chaos. It now costs 20. Before it used to cost 16. And it is now -4 cost for each friendly demon in play, which before was -2. So if you get 3 demons in play, including, your possessed Space Marines, which count as demonic possessed, or what's the right word for it? Stardy's demon. It's right there. That's the hybrid. If you have 3 of those, this is going to cost 8, which there's a bigger swing there, but it's actually easier to play as opposed to requiring 4+ demons on the board to get it to swing appropriately, to get it to like 6 costs and play it from there. It's a little different. I don't dislike it, and I actually think that's really great, because if you use his ability with his his dark gifts for 1 energy, you're lowering his whispers by 4. So if you spread it out, if you time it right, and depending on how your deck is and you go, but let's just say you've got 4 or 5 troops on the board, none of which are demons, but you have built up your dark gifts. You pay 5 energy to put 1 dark gift on each of those troops. You've lowered your Whispers of Chaos to 0. 5 times 4 is 20, right? Yeah. Yeah, so if you had 4, then that would lower this to 4, as opposed to 8. I mean, that's a big drop, so it's a lot easier for him to get this Whispers off. And I have long said, my opinion is, the Whispers is hard from his standout ability is okay with the Dark Gifts and the -1 to demons. That's okay. I'm personally of the mind, I think that his Whispers form, Lorgar Transfigured, is one of the best Whispered forms out there. And it got better with this buff as well, because it used to deal 2 to 3 damage for 1 energy. Now he just straight deals 3 damage. And if it dies, you put in play a lesser demon. So there's a lot less gambling there. You're going to kill things, you're going to get a demon. It doesn't matter if it's your troop or not. If it's low on health and you want a fresh new demon, go for it. He ignores the maintenance cost of your demons. This is going to be significant. Now, his early game is still going to be a little touch and go. And I might have to revisit him. It's been a while since I played him. Before I was playing, I think I was playing him long before they brought in this mode. I don't recall when they brought in the warlord stats feature, but I did like a whole month or 2 with him. And I had a lot of fun. I didn't do great, but I had a lot of fun with him. I think it's time to go back and revisit him, especially with some of the changes to the Word Bearers cards and his ability, because it's really fun getting to Lorgar Transfigured and just turning in a whole board full of demons and ruling the board. So I'm looking forward to that. That's a big change. That's a big change for Lorgar specifically. Now let's go into the unaligned faction. The Orphans of War, guys, they see a couple big changes. When I say big, I mean there are changes to 2 key cards. First off, Horus Heresy. This guy used to be Survivor 1, as well as the 3 health. Big annoying thorn in the side. His Relentless was deal 2 damage to a random troop. That's been changed. He has an additional Survivor, but his deal 1 damage now. But it's also to a random enemy, so it's not just a troop. He can now be a threat two warlords in mono warlords builds, but it was always kind of problematic if you were facing an Angron with Orphans of War and you had Oros in your hand. He wasn't going to do anything for you. He wasn't going to do anything. Well, now he can. He can be a little pestering thorn in the side of your enemy. It's not something that they're going to want to ignore. Angron's not going to be able to get rid of him right away because he's got the Survivor 2 unless he uses several tactics in that first turn. So, yeah, I like this. This isn't bad. This helps other decks deal with the issue of a first turn Oros drop from a Orphans of War Warlord. That's very frustrating, and at the same time, it gives a little bit to the Orphans of War too. I don't think that's a terrible change. However, the Moratat Cyrus, who has really been a linchpin in the Orphans of War card pool for such a long time, has definitely been changed around. This can no longer target the enemy warlord, and that's big. For the longest time, you could use a Moratat Cyrus with 4 health, sit relatively safely in stealth, and if you survived, just go off on your opponent, either with tactics, troops, your warlord attacking, whatever else that you already had lurking in the shadows. You no longer have that ability, which is great because it's still a good sentenced effect if you want to deal with troops, but it kind of tempers it compared to the Mors Dathan from the Raven Guard, who are the stealth legion, and this is what they do. It makes his ability better because he can still target the enemy warlord as well as do this additional damage if they are already sentenced. But it really is going to hamper Kyrene and Brantham builds who were really relying on that. For the most part. I mean, there's other things that the Orphans of War have at their disposal, but if you faced an Orphans of War player, you understand that that's really what they were going for most games. And I think they're going to have to shift their focus a little bit more to some of the other cards. There are still great cards in the Orphans of War card pool. Don't underestimate a Precognition 4/5 that you can easily bolster health with or give Survivor. Those are just good cards in general. So I think Orphans of War decks are going to change to just kind of either bypass the Moratat Cyrus and go for a different 5-drop troop. Maybe even go so far as just to go 1 pidge up to 6 and stick double Marauders in there. But it's going to change things a little bit around, and I'm okay with that. I think anybody else who's been tired of being pinged by Moratat Cyrus probably will agree. If you don't agree, let me know in the comments. Please. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Let's go ahead and take a look at the next and the last change. This is also a big one. This is just a warlord. This is just one card, is Jagatai Khan, right? Jagatai is going to start with his standard Reckoning, but his Reckoning has been changed, so it is no longer minus what used to be -1 cost if you had no troops at the end of your turn, which meant that you had to build and play differently so that you ended your turn with no troops on the board, putting pretty much in a mono warlord style camp, right? And then as long as you set that up, you could hit your Reckoning at 8 energy or 9 energy, give or take, if you ended a turn or not. But now this is -1 when you control no troops at the start of your turn, which is very nice because really you can play troops to help support Jagatai. And I think the White Scars have got some great troops. They really do. I love playing Kinza and Hibukan and actually using these troops and just having some support in there, as well as the constant threat of what these guys might do, whether they are fast troops, whether they are frontline, whether they're guys who can actually, bolster the health of my warlord. They're just solid. They're solid. So now the Warhawk or Jagatai, I should say, before he becomes the Warhawk, can get those throughout the game and force your opponent to do one of two things. Either A, take care of those troops and spend resources on those and help you reach your Reckoning, or B, let them sit there and then deal with the repercussions. And the repercussions can kind of be severe if you let some of these troops get out there, especially if you, as a White Scars player, are using cards to return cards to your hand, right? Like if you use Close Quarters, or if you're using Forgotten Sons and your opponent leaves it out there, and you throw it back in your deck, and now it's a +2/+2 fast, so that they didn't take care of this 3/3. It's still on your play. You put it back in your deck, and now it's a 5/5 for you to use later in the game when you want to. That's if you don't attack with it a second time. I mean, there's just different ways to go about it, right? Or you could do it throughout for the con. This now becomes a really threatening card beyond sealed or events. And to be honest, I mean, the entire event concept has changed now, so it's hard to even say that. But this before was kind of like, who plays that? A whole lot, unless you're playing sealed and you're going to have some units on the board. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. This gives it to your warlord, but it can also give it to the 2 or 3 troops that your opponent decided not to attack or get rid of. So, yeah, that's pretty significant, guys. Those are big changes. Those are big changes to the Chaos faction. I guess any faction that's going to use marks of chaos inadvertently, whether that is using cultists, whether that is using Ingethel as a warlord, or you're the word bearers and you're generating marks of chaos on your cultist troops and your traitor legions, or you're generating mechindrites that give marks of chaos, whatever you're going to have, that's going to be a pretty decent change. Now, some people may not like that Mark of Corn got dropped a pidge, but I like the fact that all of them get stat bonuses to some degree. They're minor, they're very minor, but they all are worthwhile, and especially if you consider how, you know, mutations and demonic gifts are, and if you can combine those a little bit more, you can actually get more stat buffs. And it does make cards like Warrior Lodge a little bit more gnarly, right? Because now they're already getting stat buffs from their marks of chaos. So again, Ingethel, for instance, let's just say first turn, Ingethel drops a bishop. A bishop is a 3/4 lucky draw, mark of Nurgle. Now, other cards to play, but for some reason she doubles down on second turn, and now that one cost troop is a 5/5 that she can give another mark of chaos to on her following turn. Or she plays drill site and she plays another troop and then, or a second mark of chaos. It's just really good. It opens up a lot of possibilities here. I like that change a lot. Not a fan of the testing for the Canis Vertex, and I really want to shout out to whatever on Discord, I believe, because I looked that over and I kind of missed that the first time around, and I'm not sure the player's name in game, but in Discord, that's his handles, whatever, and he questioned me on that, and I tested it out, and he was right. That is to all of the Canis body parts. So that's a significant kick in the balls to use a rather base term. And then you've got the changes there to the White Scars as well as Lorgar, and you can never not get excited when they make warlords who aren't seen play enough get hyped. So if Ingethel gets up there a little bit more, even Chaos Spawn to some degree, but Ingethel mainly, and Jaghatai and Lorgar, I'll take 3 ups for 1 down. It feels like an even trade. It feels like a fair trade. And I'll be honest with you guys, Canis Vertex is just in a very poor spot. I think the game as a whole is at a much faster clip, and as a warlord, it just is going to suffer anyway. So they'd have to do a lot more than just give it an additional card and some damage that is hard enough to accumulate and get by on those arms for Canis Vertex to matter. It can still be very possible, and I mean, it's an intimidating presence on the board, but nowhere near what it was once long ago. So now, one place that I mean, these are just my first impressions. These are just my thoughts initially. I haven't even dived in. I've been doing my little challenges here, trying to get my relentless. I am still chasing the Jagatai Khan here, so I really want to get the White Scars, and getting these challenge crates is key to me. So I'm still doing dailies and challenges, but I wanted to get these update videos out there. I'm going to be busy this weekend. One thing I'm going to be busy with is on Saturday nights. Saturday night, tomorrow night, I am going to be taking a look at the Warp Chatter podcast, and we're going to be recording episode 4, I believe. J Thrills and Howley Doin'. I believe, are going to be my guests. Both of those guys have submitted for decklist contests, and they reached out to me. They've heard the episodes, they wanted to be on the podcast. We were initially going to be talking about Dark Angels, um, uh, Legion, lore, fluff, decks. And I said, unless there's a balance patch on Friday, there was a balance patch on Friday. So, guys, we are going to be talking about this balance patch, I think, probably the majority of the time, and giving our thoughts and hearing what they have to say, and kind of, is this going to change anything that they're playing? I think it might. I think it might, especially if they've got the Khan. I think that Jagatai Khan is in a better state. Still hard pressed starting out with that -1 energy, but he can burst out pretty hard and hit pretty heavy. And if he can get to Warhawk mode, with all the right support cards, Skilled Rider and the White Tiger Dao, that is, you'd be hard pressed to best him at that point. I think the only thing that he would be missing is Continuous Ward or Survivor 5, and that is not hard for him to come by. So, yeah, check that out. Check out the Warp Chatter podcast. It is available on Podbean. I'm working to get it on other platforms. You can find it on Spotify, FM Player, a host of other places right now. I believe it's on Amazon Alexa. Give it a search. Give it a listen. Subscribe. Let me know what you think. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do so. It really helps me out to be part of the community and reach out to as many folks as I can. I do appreciate the subscriptions. I've been working on improving things here for the channel, for you guys, for myself, and every bit of comments, feedbacks, likes, dislikes, whether it's decklist videos, news, updates, card-by-card breakdowns. I appreciate the feedback I get. It helps me develop better content, and it really means a lot. Been doing this for almost 3 years, guys. And I do it because I love the game, and I hope you do too. I hope you do too. I hope that's why you're here. I mean, gosh, if you're interested in the game, that's one thing to check out. But if you really enjoy the game and you want to continue, me too, man. I cannot wait for the Imperial Fists. That's about it. I'm just jazzed tonight. I'm jazzed tonight. It's a Friday night. I'm ready to go. I got new decks to build now as a result of this. I got to go into my decks and change up my Lorgar here. I'm definitely going to take my Ingathel out from Challenge deck, which was just, spend energy. This is just a spend energy deck build. I'm going to put her into actual use. Speaking of, that totally reminds me, speaking of challenge decks, if you recall, I do that monthly decklist contest, and that is actually the theme for February is challenge decks. So if you haven't submitted or you haven't thought about submitting, please do. The contest is very simple. You send me a picture of your player profile. You send me a screenshot of your deck with a nice little catchy name, and follow with the theme, and the theme is challenge decks. So give me a list of your decks that you use for your challenge, or your favorite challenge, or the deck that you use for the most challenges, whatever it works for you. It's pretty self-explanatory, and the first place is going to get 1,000 gold, second place gets 500 gold, third place gets 300 gold. It's possibly the easiest way to get gold in the game, or in the community, not necessarily directly in the game, but just by participating. And I love getting all the submissions and taking the time to go through and figure out which ones stack up for the month. So every Thursday is when I'm going to be posting those. So we're going to be recording tomorrow. That's going to go up Thursday. I've got White Scars card by card video coming out later this weekend, probably Sunday or Monday, depending on if I get time to get all my editing in. And other than that, guys, have a great weekend. Keep playing Legions, and we'll talk to you later. All right, bye.